Well, good morning, church. I don't think we may have introduced ourselves. So my name's Dominic, and over there on the keys is Zach. This whole trip necessarily wasn't last minute, but we were supposed to have a significantly larger group. We were supposed to have like 5 or maybe 6, and then finals week happened. And it turns out that people who aren't business majors actually have things to do. So then it just ended up being us two. And it's still been a lot of fun, so thank you for still having us, though we may be smaller in numbers. So this morning, I wanted to talk a little bit from Matthew specifically. And the verse that I was thinking about was in Matthew 22. It's towards the end of the chapter. We all know it. And it's when Jesus is talking with the Pharisees, and they ask him, "Lord, what is the greatest commandment?" And he says, the first and the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And all of the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because we talk a lot about the first part of that, which is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And we occasionally talk about the love your neighbor as yourself. But the question that I was pondering was, who is my neighbor? Because, I mean, obviously, it could be the guy that lives next to you. It could be the person broken down on the side of the road. Maybe they need a spare tire. But I feel like those are like the cheesy, obvious answers. And so I wanted to think a little bit deeper about it. And in thinking about that, I was thinking back to, oh my goodness, I must have been 7th or 8th grade. And our church youth group thought it would be super cool if we would go and volunteer at our homeless soup kitchen, which sounds fantastic unless you're an 8th grader who is looking forward to playing video games and soccer, and then it's kind of an inconvenience. And so, yes, I will take all of the hate for that, and yes, I didn't want to go help the homeless people sue me, but I was in 8th grade, okay. But it was funny because the entire time, my mom forced me to go, by the way. I didn't get to stay and play video games. And my mom forced me to go, and the entire time I was there, I had the worst attitude ever, and my mom was unhappy with me. And I didn't get what I could have gotten out of the experience. And as embarrassing as it was, the people could tell. And my mom talked to me afterward, and she goes, it's really obvious that you didn't want to be there. And at the time, I didn't care. I was like, obviously, I didn't want to be there. But in thinking back to it, I was like, would it have really been that much of an inconvenience? I can still go play video games later. It's still going to be there. I can still go play football or soccer with my friends. Did it really harm me to hurt anybody else? And why didn't I want to help those people? Was it because they were stinky? Was it because they might have had a little bit of a hint of cocaine or something like that? I don't know. But that led me to my first conclusion about who my neighbor is. Perhaps your neighbor is not the person that it looks super bougie to love. Maybe your neighbor is the person that you don't want to love. Maybe your neighbor is the one that you'll get in trouble for loving. Maybe your neighbor is the drunk guy who spends his time at the bar, and you have to go to that location and in order to minister to that person, and that doesn't look good on the outside. And then I was thinking to another story in Matthew. It's in Matthew 8. Another story that we probably all know pretty well. It's the story where Jesus is, here, let me see if I can pull it up. Jesus arrives at the region of the Gadarenes, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But the point is, he meets a demoniac who has been tormenting the people of that region for a long time. And they try to bind him with chains, and he breaks them, and he torments them. And Jesus speaks to him and goes, well, basically talks to the demons at that point, and casts all of the demons into the pigs, and the pigs run off the cliff, and, that's kind of how that goes, right? And at the end of that chapter, it says the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and they saw him, and they pleaded with him to leave their region. And that had me wondering, well, Jesus has just healed this guy who's been causing them lots of trouble for a long time. Why wouldn't they want to know Jesus' message? What happened by helping somebody that would make them tell him to leave? And I was in religion class this it was a couple of weeks ago, and my religion teacher brought up this story, and he goes, if you read the original manuscripts, the underlying tone of that last verse where they pleaded with him to leave, it gets lost. It's in the original, it's more of a hostile, you need to leave, more of a threatening, not please leave, it's you need to get out of here. And that was even more interesting. So I'm thinking about this, and it's the only other main piece of the story is that Jesus tells the demons to go into the pigs, and they launch themselves off a cliff, which I assume means they all die. And then I realized, it wasn't about healing the guy. It was about losing a bunch of pigs. It was the profit margin, the bottom line, the pocketbook, if you will. The coins in the coffer ran very thin after this herd of pigs dumped themselves off this cliff. And then I realized, it wasn't about helping the man at all. It was about the money of the people. And that brought me to my second conclusion about who my neighbor is. If you're truly loving your neighbor the way Jesus did, people aren't going to like it. Because it should be offensive. We should offensively be loving our neighbor. And especially in this case, it should be offensive to the people because it hurt their pocketbooks. And so it was really interesting to me to really kind of see the dynamic of not only should my neighbor be the person that I don't want to be associated with, but it should also come at personal cost. People are not going to like me for loving the people who I love. And that suffering is what Jesus has called us to do. And that was my realization. And Zach is gonna kind of build off of this little topic, because we decided to kind of piggyback off each other's topics. So with that, I'll turn it over to him.
Pure preparation. I'm going to sit down on here because I like to. It makes me feel very comfortable. So, my name is Zach. I'm a business major at Waldo University, and I'm here because I don't have any finals that are of any significance. So thank you for having us again. We appreciate it. We always love coming here. The last couple summers we've worked with Kevin Brusette, Pastor Brent's cousin, and so we've had the opportunity to come here and do music while you guys are over there. We eat a nice breakfast, and then enjoy church and do some music for you guys. But yeah, it's always been a pleasure, and it's been very funny getting to know Kevin because during the school year, we do this program called called the Connect Project, where we travel out and we connect with, schools, churches, and, through music and stuff like that. And it was funny because that all started because of Music and Mission. Basically, our summer program with Kevin, we travel around and we do very similar things. We go to schools, churches, homeless shelters, nursing homes, all types of outreach programs. One could say serving our neighbors. But it was very funny because my first summer with Kevin was a very unique experience. I was like, This guy does not think about life the same way that we do at all. Um, yes, his cousin-in-law is nodding her head. Um, but but through that, there was one phrase that he always said that very much stuck out to me, and it was "here to serve." And I was like, huh, I never thought about that before. His other one is "may I speak freely," and if you say that, then if you say yes to that, then he's gonna speak freely. He's gonna tell you what he thinks. But his main phrase, "I'm here to serve," was a really unique one. So I never experienced that before, and the reality was that he was always there to serve. And so it was crazy to me that, like, if you go into something without expecting anything from it, you're just here to serve. Like coming here, no idea. We just called Brent and said, hey, like, can we serve you in any way? And he said, well, actually, like, I'm leaving for the weekend in June. Like, would you be willing to come and do the service again? We're like, absolutely. Like, I called Dominic, and he's like, absolutely. Called other people, they're like, absolutely. And their finals happened, they're like, no. But the reality is, like, there's no payoff, there's no guarantee. I have no idea. We're just here to serve. And since we, like, altered our perspective on that, like, when I was younger, it was all math and numbers. If something doesn't make sense logically, then why would I do it? Don't know. So I didn't. Like, if my option was hanging out with somebody or playing piano for a nursing home or doing something extra that I didn't really care for versus doing homework, which got me a better grade, I always did the homework. That's just how it was. That was my childhood. And then I didn't realize it until I took a business class this quarter. Apparently, they've already broken this down. They've already realized that, like, within the business field, that when you simply are there to serve, they call it being a servant leader. Like, if you go through your business career and you're like, hey, I'm doing this for, they call it transactional leadership. Everything you do is expecting something out of your employee, out of your customer, out of whatever it is. And you operate with that mindset, then you don't do as well. That's just how it works. But if you do stuff like, say, send a gift basket or send, like, a little note to your customers, like, you call them randomly, like this guy that we interviewed for one of our projects, he said he'll just, like, call a few of his, like, major clients, just, like, see how they're doing, and, like, buy the, if they mention, like, their wife's birthday or something, like, he'll send, like, some flowers or something, or, like, send them, buy them dinner, like, just little stuff, just being nice. And, like, that doesn't necessarily pay off, but, like, over the course of time, through purely serving, like, it always comes back somehow. And so that was something very interesting, because did these interviews for our business class, and then in class he's talking about our professor Tarawinga was talking about servant leaders, and I was like, huh. So this isn't just some, like, crazy idea that them Christians came up with. It's actually business fact. If you go into something expecting to serve, expecting to give something, like, usually that's just a better way to live. It's gonna make you happier. You're gonna be more productive. When you do stuff for other people, you're gonna do it better typically. And so then I was like, huh, this is interesting. So it brought me back to Kevin. I was like, okay, this is weird. And because I do this project, the Connect project, I was planning this fall trip. We're looking into a potential tour where we'd travel around and do a bunch of music for a bunch of schools, a bunch of churches. It'd be like 50 schools in 2.5 months, and huge tour, huge pain in the thing that's sitting on this cajon at the moment. But I was making a lot of calls to a lot of schools, a lot of churches, and they weren't all closing exactly like I thought they would. And I was like, hey, can we come do it? We're from the university. We'd love to come to a chapel. Love to do, like, a workshop with you guys. Love to do this and this and this. Talk to your students. And they're like, I mean, yeah, sure, probably. I was like, what? I mean, it could be that I'm calling, Georgia, and Georgia doesn't know us quite as well as, like, Bend, Three Sisters. That's a little different. But, like, I realized that I was asking for something from them. Basically, let me come in and do this for you. So then I flipped the game. I was like, okay, actually, I don't really care. We don't have to do music. We don't have to talk, whatever. So I changed it to, how can we serve? I said, what can we do? Like, in my emails, like I literally changed it to, um, this is what we do. This is who we are. We're music and worship leaders from Walla Walla University. We'd love to come and do anything we can to serve you guys. Like, this is our skill set. This is what we like to do. This is our reputation. This is our history. This is what we do. How can we serve? And we've had a 100% close rate since then. Like literally, like I haven't had a single place tell us no. Like it's been insane. So now we've got like 35 schools waiting to see if we get this approved. But yeah, it was a huge shift for me. And so through this has been like, okay, well, who is my neighbor? Everybody. Like it doesn't matter. If I come across a person and like, you know, I'll try not to go into this story, because this story last time I told it was at Mount Ellis. I told him it was going to take 5 minutes, and I talked for 25. I was told by a freshman girl afterwards. But my friend Micah, our friend Micah, guitarist, we took a trip down the West Coast. We just did music for nursing homes, and only nursing homes. They're the only people who took us. But during spring break, so we traveled all the way down, and like, you know, I mean, with nursing homes, like frequently they'll give you like a little money to help you with their bills and stuff when you're a traveling musician. And so we did, we got a little bit of money off of that, and so it, cut our expenses down to like a couple $100 a piece or something, or $100 a piece or something like that. It was really low. And so, but we went from Walla Walla to Portland to Bend to Sacramento, Los Angeles, Vegas. No, we played for 3 churches and went to no casinos, I will have you know. And then we drove all the way up to Walla Walla again. But met this guy at a guitar center, and he was playing piano, and he had very flat fingers, and I was like, huh, I see the way he's moving these. And when you have like this sort of like fingering, like you're a jazz pianist typically. That's how it works. So I saw him, I like looked at him, I was like, oh, jazz pianist. Huh, he'd be fun to talk to. Anyway, so we eventually then he, heard me messing around. He's like, I see you. And so then I, went up and talked to him. And from that conversation, then, introduced him to Micah, and then he invited both of us to their little gospel church that evening. And so we went and walked in to listen. And he's like, oh, so good to see you guys. He like comes down from stage. He's got 2 keyboards on top of each other, and comes down from stage and like, hugs us both. He's like, so good to see you guys. And then he's like, where are your instruments? And we're like, what are you talking about? So then we played 2 hours of gospel improv music for that evening. And then he invited us to church. So then we played for church again. Then he told us he had another church, and we played for that church. But anyways, 3 services in 1 weekend that we didn't know we were going to do when we got to town. That was simply because it's just being nice to people, just talking. Like he said, nice job. And I was like, oh, I'd love to talk to this guy. That's all it was. So like, I didn't expect to get anything out of that, but instead I got 6 hours of gospel piano experience with pros that I never would have gotten if I was looking for something logical out of it.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this group of people that are gathered here today. Thank you for the fellowship that we've been able to share, and the music and the stories. Please be with everyone as they travel home. Please help us to have a fantastic rest of the day. And help us to remember that being a servant and being like you is more important than just transactional relationships. Be with us as we go about our day. And above all, come quickly. In Jesus' name, amen.